Thank you, Micah. Please stay with us as I will be coming back to you very shortly. Thank you. Lebanese authorities say at least one person was killed in a strike near Beirut that hit the residential suburb of Hazmeh as the ongoing conflict with Israel continues to spill into Lebanon's capital. The Lebanon Health Ministry reported the death and added the area has seen multiple Israeli airstrikes in recent days. Lebanese officials say the strike hit civilian areas east of Beirut. At the same time, the Israeli military said it struck a member of Iran's Revolutionary Guards for Quds force in Beirut, underscoring how the war involving Iran, Israel and Hezbollah has widened in scope. Israel has been targeting commanders linked to Iran-backed group in Lebanon. In a separate development, an Israeli cabinet minister called for the annexation of southern Lebanon up to the Litani River, marking an unprecedented public push by a senior official to seize territory amid fierce fighting with Hezbollah. Smotrich's remarks came as Israeli forces intensify strikes and ground operations in southern Lebanon, drawing international concern over civilian casualties and displacement. We are now going to go back to Mark. Mark, thank you for staying with us for this. As we've heard, another person has unfortunately died in a strike in Lebanon with Israel, and we know the death toll, especially in Lebanon, we know has exceeded 1,000, and it doesn't seem to be calming down any minute. What do we know, or what do we think is going to happen in the next couple of 5 days? We know that Trump said he's given around 5 days. Do you think Israel are also going to do the same, especially with onto Hezbollah, onto people in Lebanon, because now just innocent people are dying because of this broadened scope of this war?
Ellie, having stood on the border there last November, and the fact that the issue is this, is that Hezbollah is Iran. Right, it's not just necessarily just a proxy, but they are Iran, and they have to be dealt with. We go back to the awful tragedy, the civil war in 1975, and we look back to Lebanon, the beautiful country then on the Mediterranean, and then in their generosity, because of what was going on, allowing people to come into their country who then abused that and then turned it into a civil war, and this is where we are now. We have to bear all that in mind. Now, in regard to your casualty figures, I will say this, is that the Israelis have warned people to get out of the area constantly. That cannot be denied. I can't comment on those casualty figures because I haven't seen them. But what we then have to do is go back to Lebanon War of 1982. We then go back to 2014. We then go back to previous action. And understandably, Israel is saying because of the north, because of missiles that have come from Hezbollah, it has been commentated by people greater than me that the Iranians have gone there in the early part of this war and say that you will fire missiles and you will attack Israel, because as I say, that is Iran. Now you've got this dichotomy, because then you've got the Lebanese government where don't have the strength to push Hezbollah out. Hence, in my humble opinion, why the IDF has gone in on the ground to deal with this. And remember as well, Ellie, while we look at the tunnels of Hamas, we then have to remember the amount of rockets that are upon that border, and the tunneling is exactly the same, even though the geography, the hard ground, the granite ground, the rock formation is different. But we have to bear in mind, you and I don't have hours to discuss history, but history is always relevant in all the time to see why this situation has been happening and where we are now. And basically Israel, in my humble opinion has drawn a line to say we have to go in. We cannot have all these rockets going into the northern part of our country and to then see Israeli citizens evacuated again, which is what then happened in 2023 on the 7th of October. And there is a once and for all potential strategy to say we are dealing with this, Ellie.
And like you just mentioned there with the history behind this war with Hezbollah as well, and Hezbollah, Iran, are we going to see in the next 5 days Israel also reacting the same as the US, or even Israel reacting the same to Iran? Do you think Israel are going to listen as well, or do you think Israel are just going to do their completely own thing and Trump is going to not do it for 5 days?
There are two. They are allies, but there is also two different outcomes. You can argue very, very rightly, and it's very interesting to see what the Chinese are then saying, is that President Trump is wanting to deal geopolitically also with China. It's also dealing with geopolitically in regard to all these different relationships, where they get their gas from, when he's actually turned around to Europe and said just quickly that you know, about ending the war between Ukraine and Russia, but you're then buying all your fuel from Russia. All of these have to be taken into consideration. The fact is that Israel has been under an existential threat from Iran since 1979. That is the line in the sand, and I don't think many of us would want to live under that constant threat, which they have done. And just quickly, when you've had rockets launched from Gaza since 2007, hence why we have to be reminded of that history. I do not know what is going on within the generals, within Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu and the cabinet there. I'm not privy to that. But let's just remember something. We had a 12-day war last June, and President Trump then makes a phone call and asks them to turn their planes back, when at that point Iran was also on its back. So all of these things have to be borne in mind, Ellie.
Thank you, Mark. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for joining us here on NewsX World. Michael, we're going to come to you now about this. So as we also heard, Israel has been targeting commanders linked to Iran-backed groups in Lebanon. In a separate development, an Israeli cabinet minister called for the annexation. As we know, Israel are telling people to leave as they're trying to target Hezbollah, but many civilians are losing their lives. Do you think Israel saying for people to leave is coming out of a genuine nice place of them because they don't want to target civilians, or do you think they really don't think about these sort of things?
I think the idea that they don't think about civilian casualties is preposterous. By almost every metric, Israel is one of the most moral armies in the world. No other army would drop leaflets into Gaza or warn the citizens of the place that is going to be under attack. And let's remember that Lebanon and Hezbollah, they're not the same. The Lebanese government, President Joseph Aoun, has declared Hezbollah outlawed it, right? It's as a terrorist organization, and so those need to be separated. And we also need to remember that, and also I should say though, Smotrich is a far right member of Parliament and of Netanyahu's cabinet, and oftentimes has said things that do not necessarily reflect the policies of the Israeli government. And I think that needs to be understood. Israel is not interested in territorial expansion, right? It's already surrounded on many sides by nations that do not like it, and it gave back the Sinai Peninsula to Egypt, right? There's nothing really to gain from actually expanding. What would be better is if, to Mark's point, is if the Lebanese government actually had the means to really push Hezbollah out. But yeah, the notion of the Litani River has often been a line that Hezbollah was supposed to withdraw behind that line, and they didn't. And the people who are getting caught up in this are innocent civilians, but that is not necessarily Israel's fault. That is because oftentimes Hamas and Hezbollah are willfully keeping people in these zones of conflict because to them, dead civilians are good PR. And they try to use that to castigate it and to blame Israel. But I think the notion that Israel doesn't care about Israel.
I'm really sorry, Micah. We've just got some breaking news coming in, but please stay with us as I'll be joining back with you just after this. According to reports, Pakistan is positioning itself as the lead mediator, trying to broker an end to the US's and Israel's war against Iran, using its military strongman's ties to Tehran and warm relationship with Donald Trump. Army Chief Asim Munir spoke with Trump on Sunday. According to two people briefed on the call, while Pakistani Prime Minister Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif had talks with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian on Monday. The conversation between the Pakistani and Iranian leaders came at around the same time as Trump announced that he was delaying his threat to obliterate Iran's power plants after very good and productive conversations with Tehran to end the war. It was not clear if Pakistan's mediation push and Trump's post on Truth social media platform, which caused oil prices to fall sharply, were related. Turkey, which was involved in mediation efforts before the war, has also been talking to Iranian officials and Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Mohammad Ishaq Dar held talks with his Turkish counterpart Hakan Fidan on Monday. Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdelatty also spoke to his Iranian and Pakistani counterparts on Sunday, as well as Witkoff and Qatar's Foreign Minister. We are now being rejoined by Micah again. Thank you for joining us back here for this breaking news that we're getting in. As we just heard, that Pakistan is positioning itself as the lead mediator, trying to broker these end to these talks. Do you think that it's true with these talks, and as soon as after Pakistan spoke to Iran, that Trump came out and said that he will not obliterate their power plants? Do you think this is true?
It's hard to make sense of it, really. Like you said, both Iran and the United States are doing their fair share of bluffing, but I could see Pakistan. It makes sense why they would want to position themselves as sort of more geopolitically relevant to the Trump administration. So it's hard to say for sure.
Thank you so much, Mike, for joining us here on NewsX. It's a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you.